Hi, I'm Nikki,
And I'm Mo.
and welcome to Shimmering Paths.
So, as you probably know, we have finished our year of cosplay. And with that, we just wanted to give you guys a recap of what we think about everything that we've done this year.
So, starting at the beginning with Lady and the Tramp. For me, this one was a really easy one, but the best part of this whole thing, I think, was taking the pictures. The way we set up the photo shoot part for the pictures at the table and doing the spaghetti scene was so much fun. It was incredibly awesome to do.
Oh yeah. And for me, I feel like this one showed the most of what our original idea was for what's the Shimmering Paths video gonna look like? What is the year of cosplay gonna look like? What do we want our photo shoots to look like? And I feel like this is the one that we had the best planning, we had the most time for. Like, all around, this one was set up to be the most successful it could have possibly been. Next, we had Peach and Bowser. This one, I feel like we were a little ambitious, and while we got a few good elements in, I feel like this was the just cosplay that we learned, alright, here are our limitations on just what we can do in a month. Because I wouldn't even say that budget was a concern on this one. It was just a matter of how much time do we have. And it became painfully obvious that we didn't have enough time to do this one.
For me, this was definitely the most frustrating month out of the whole year. We really just ended up biting off more than we could chew. I am no seamstress. I can't really make anything from scratch, so I was learning as I was going. And learning something takes time, and then doing something takes time. So therefore, we were trying to do things double the amount of time that we actually had in the month, so it just ended up not really working out for us.
Next was Wirt and Greg, that, quite frankly, I feel like was the pick-me-up that we needed after Peach and Bowser, because this one was complicated enough, especially with the whole cape situation and figuring out how we wanted to do the hat. And this one was the reassurance that we can still do everything that we want to do within the time and budget constraints.
The hardest part of these two was definitely figuring out the hats, at least for me with the teapot. What really helped was looking at tutorials or examples of things that other people had already made. And that's what gave me the idea for finding the children's tea set with the giant teapot that I ended up using for it. But that's what helped me find that idea.
Next was Mary and Bert, which honestly I feel like was our best combination of simplicity and details between like getting all of the little pieces right and then going in and saying, all right, like, where do we draw the line of like how deep are we digging versus like, hey, let's throw this in there. And this one did actually win us a competition.
I think coolest part of doing Mary and Bert was definitely 3D printing the bird head for the umbrella. Getting that to go on there and just like being able to paint all the details and having it look really realistic was extremely cool, and is probably the standout part in all of our photos. So for June, we did Joke and Aizawa from My Hero. This one was fun and like not hard to get all the pieces for, but some of the biggest challenges that we had were that right as we were finishing it, our sewing machine broke. So I wasn't able to finish the shorts. We had to just kind of piece it all together, and safety pin it to my body so that we could just go out and take pictures. But in the bright side, I did learn how to make fabric and how to make shorts out of the fabric that I made, so that was pretty cool.
And with that, even with the machine breaking, because that also meant that we didn't get my pockets done up how we wanted them to. And I feel like this one had, at least for me, the most touch-ups that I could easily go back and fix up before we went to a con. And even then, like, there are still a few touch-ups that I want to go in and do. And this one is, I'd say, a good midpoint between, yeah, we can put this out there, and we need to go back and work on it. I mean, not so much with Ms. Joke, but more so with, if I want to be one of the coolest I saw was at the con, there are some measures that need to happen. And then we had King and Loose. Oh my goodness. For any of you who noticed the difference between our initial, like, end of the month posting and con pictures with the King helmet, yeah, that's because the 3D printer decided to have the most problems while we were printing it. And so most of that helmet, actually, I think just about the whole thing had to be redone.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah. Before we could have a good King helmet for the con. But, oh my goodness, is that helmet still worth it after everything we put it through?
One of the most surprising things I would say about Luce is that she ended up being so expensive. Looking at her design, you wouldn't think that, like, just coming up with the cosplay itself, but she ended up being on the higher end of all of our prices. Our next ones were Judy and Nick from Zootopia. The most notable thing about doing these two was that we actually ended up having to do the photo shoot twice, because the first time, because Judy's cosplay and, like, just her whole outfit and costume has so many individual parts, I ended up forgetting 2, 3, however many pieces of the costume, like, going into the photo shoot. So we actually ended up having to, when we looked at those photos, we ended up having to go back and be like, oh no, we have to take a second day of photos because we missed so many cosplay items.
And this one, like, on top of everything with all of the parts on Judy, I actually have almost nothing to say about Nick because he was, like, honestly one of the simplest for me to get. The hard part, if anything, was getting Judy's knee pads printed, which was the highlight of the whole thing. But what's frustrating is we originally had planned out and even got the files to print out an actual, like, Zootopia, like, police badge, but it just wouldn't print right for however many times we tried to get it out. So it was definitely a high and low for the 3D printer on that entire cosplay. And speaking of the 3D printer and cosplays, next we had Veronica and JD from Heather's, and when I tell you that that stinking gun was the most difficult thing to set up, like, I think it ended up being 4 or 5 different positions that I had to toy around with printing just so that it would come out. And even then, I'm still not happy with how it turned out. Like, but at this point, it's one of those, it looks fine in the pictures, and so I can't be mad about it.
For Veronica and JD, I think the most surprising thing for me was how difficult it was to find the blazer and the, like, trench coat jacket. Pretty typically, every time I go into a thrift store there are just lines and lines of every color of blazer possible. And when we went in to find the blazer for her specifically, for the whole month we couldn't come across one until like the last week that we needed it.
And then came October with Beetlejuice and Lydia, which this one I'd say was all around a very simple one for us. And that was very convenient for us, kind of by design, because if you haven't noticed the difference in our videos, we got married in October, so we needed something simple, and I'd say that Beetlejuice and Lydia was exactly that.
Speaking of it being easy, surprisingly, some of the hardest parts were actually finding a black lace dress, because those are ridiculously hard to find apparently. And one of the other hard parts was, so the suit that you see in our photos on the Beetlejuice cosplay was all the dirt that you see on it, actually, like, it was real dirt. We just threw it in the backyard and rolled it around in the mud. But the hardest part about that is that for some reason, the dirt, because of the fabric and material that the suit was made out of, the dirt was just coming off of it no matter like what we did. So we ended up having to like cake it on there and just letting it dry. And so that suit is genuinely just dirty.
Then was November with Baniri and Riolu, which I was expecting to be the highlight just because I love Pokemon. This is one of my favorite Pokemon, and it really gave me a good lesson early for our marriage of listen to your wife when she tells you, hey, maybe try a different design for a character, because looking back on it, I am not happy with that one, and there is a reason that you probably will not see me wearing Riolu to a convention.
At least the way it is now.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna need work before it ever hits a con floor.
On the other hand, I'm super happy with the way Baniri turned out. I think the thing that I would change if I like go back and like do any edits is, one of my original plans was to like paint the puffs on the tip of her ear and on the beret the same color as the skirt, and I ended up like not doing it because I didn't really know how to at the time, and if that would be something that I would go back and change and edit if I was going to make changes to the cosplay.
And then came our Animal Crossing reps of Blathers and Celeste, which in my personal opinion is like, especially in the second half of our year of cosplay, I think this was one of our better looking ones for both of us, like where we both were really standing out as opposed to just one or the other. Because yeah, this one was absolutely about like keeping everything simple but very direct. Every piece of those cosplays had a purpose for being there.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with how those two turned out, and the pictures came out super cute. The most that I can really say that was like funny about doing the photos was that, man, yellow tights are weird. I really did feel like a whole chicken. But it was fun nonetheless.
And then came the one that you just saw, if you're watching this as they came out, is Magenta and Blue. And let me tell you, dyeing a pair of overalls is a lot more interesting than you'd think, considering how much of our dyeing pot was filled with just overalls. And
It's a lot of fabric.
oh yeah. And for how full that entire pot was, you'd think it would have come out a lot more even than it did. And for how long we had it sitting in there. Like, if we didn't have it sitting in that pot overnight, it probably would have looked more like a tie-dye pair of overalls.
Yeah, it definitely, the color developed really well, but the patchiness was still there. it became a feature, not a bug. It's fine.
Oh yeah. If you're not totally sold on it, you just say, you know what? It looks good. It's got character.
The thing that was, I think, the most frustrating during the photo shoot specifically was that the way that we ended up attaching the ears to the headbands made it so they were really floppy. So it was something that we had to keep an eye on at all times to make sure that the ears were like standing out and actually in the photo and not just up against our faces the whole time.
Yeah, the number of pictures that we had to retake just to make sure, oh wait, was the ear in that picture or was it flopping off doing something it shouldn't? Like, they did turn out very good though.
Yeah.
And so for our highlight reel, so to speak, of our highest and lowest of the entire year of cosplay, for each of us, our cheapests were, surprisingly for you, it was Baneri. And little did we realize that Beetlejuice, the Dapper Man himself, was my absolute cheapest.
And our most expensive cosplays ended up being Loose for me and Bird. So in the end, was it worth it? I would say 100% yes.
Oh yeah, like the number of people that we got to talk to, and hopefully you guys are out here watching, like the number of people that we were able to say, oh yeah, we're doing this, and they were genuinely surprised to hear.
I'm excited.
Yeah, like this is something that I don't think I've ever seen anybody else doing before, and hopefully it catches on, because I think it would be cool to see other people doing a year of cosplay of their own and just doing their own choices and characters.
So with all this coming to an end, we just want to say that we still intend to do more videos of new costumes. And with these new videos, we're going to be showing a bit more of our process, as well as specific guide videos to how to make different pieces to a certain costume.
But we also are excited to announce that with the year of cosplay coming to an end, and the added time that we'll have to do other kinds of videos, we are going to be giving you guys new kinds of content. Because I know that as much as we love Year of Cosplay, in doing a lot more on YouTube, we want to put more kinds of things out. So make sure you've got an eye out for whatever we're throwing out there next.
So with all that said, we really hope you guys enjoyed the entire journey and coming along with us on it. And we can't wait to show you what we've got next.
So until next time, see ya!